Okay, continuing on with our lesson in doing reserves evaluation using PHDWin software, we're going to move on to creating type curves. And type curves are really popular these days when we're trying to help evaluate shale drilling because it can give us a rate profile for the wells we're planning to drill. So to create these in PHDWin, the first thing you do is you have to select the appropriate offset wells to make your type curve from, because type curves are just you use an analogy by creating type curves. All right, so you have to use the correct criteria. So for instance, if you're planning to drill 10,000 foot lateral wells, you wouldn't necessarily want to select existing wells with 5,000 foot laterals as to make your type curve. But if you do, you may have to adjust them a little bit. But anyway, so you select them appropriately. Then you need to review the production data of these wells. Make sure it looks good. Sometimes there's some bad data or there's no data, and you just call out the bad stuff before you make your type curve. And then third point is you don't use any data in your normalized curve, your type curve, after you lose 50% of your well count. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So that's important. Let's go to PHDWin and make a type curve. All right, so we have our project here, and we have different reservoirs. Let's do an Eagle Ford type curve. Here's some Eagle Ford wells. So what we want to do, we're going to use them as our analogies. Okay, so we're going to do File, Import Data, or Create New Case. Well, now we're going to go ahead and do Normalized Curve. PHDWin calls a type curve a normalized curve. So we need to name it. So this is the Pay It Forward Eagle Ford 10,000 foot lateral. And it's an all well, and we know it's in Fayette County, Texas. All right, so we press finish. And we get another menu, and we're going to choose end of production. Because we don't want to use projected data, for a type curve. You can, but basically you just want to use the production history in your type curve. So you press that little button and you do the case selection and you choose the wells you want to make a type curve of. So I'm going to use the Eagle Ford wells. I'm going to pull them in here. Then you're going to press create and compile. All right, so there's our normalized curves. We have an oil, gas, and water curve on there. And it's just an average of all the wells you selected. It smashes them together at time 0. So we're going to double click and add a few more years so we can see. We're going to go to product tree. We've got oil, gas, and water. We probably don't need the water at this point because we're not going to make a type curve of water. We can, but we're not going to. Important though, you use the well count. You pull the well count and put it on the graph. All right. So now we got gas and oil and well count at the bottom. So let's separate these so we can see them. All right. So the first step is to check your production data. Review your wells. Make sure they all look good. Anyway, so we're going to go, okay, so we go back to our type curve. All right, we go, PHDWin, when it makes a normalized type curve, it starts everything in the year 1901. That's just the way it does. So you go to the first year and you notice there's 11 wells in your sample. So you're going to go to the subsequent wells years and you can see the type curves of the number of wells are getting lower because as the newer wells drop out of the sample because they have a shorter life. So when you get down to 6, now you're at about 50% of the wells. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the data after the wells reach 50% or 6. So you go to this end date and you're going to cut them off in October. So it's 10-31-1906. See the year right here. So you say, okay, and it's going to warn you that you're getting ready to delete some data. So if you look at these curves, watch when I press yes, what happens to these curves. See, some of the data got chopped off. So that's what we want to do. We want to get rid of the data that's not statistically representative of our type curve. So we'll click on the graph, hit our ARPS button, and we go press the plus sign, and then we're going to get a curve. So we need to fit the curve through the whole data to get a type curve. All right, so let me zoom in on here. Okay, this is the first month of data. This is the second. What happens is some of the wells come on in the middle of the month. So when you divide by 30, you get a low point as the first point. So what I like to think at, if all the wells would have came on the first of the month, the IP, this peak would have been a little bit higher in the first month. So what I do is I always fit my curve just a little bit higher. I just use a little judgment. Okay, then you have to come up with a B factor. Let's put a B factor in here. Okay, that, and change the Q final to 10 just so it'll cut it off. Okay, so now you're trying to fit a curve through this data. And that works pretty good. Maybe like that. Okay, so we might use a little bit higher B. You can change the B. Always put a D minimum in there. All right, so that looks like a pretty good fit for the oil. Let's do the gas. Move that out of the way. All right, so we're gonna hit plus sign on the gas. You activate the gas by hitting the little red number 100, any of the numbers. Press plus. Now you're gonna get a curve for the gas. So you go ahead and you try to fit a curve through the normalized gas data. All right, again, because of the partial month production, I always assume that the peak would be a little higher. So let's put a B factor in here now. We'll use a similar as the oil. All right, so we try to fit it. You know, that looks like it's not fitting perfectly in this later years. So I might change that to here. So I'm going to use your judgment. I'm going to say that's kind of the representative case. So I'm going to put 8 here and fit to the oil. Let's put 4 cycles on here so we can see everything. Move them down. Okay, so now we have a type curve for the oil and a type curve for the gas. And we're going to go ahead and extend that out to 1 barrel a day or 2 barrels a day. Okay, so now we have it. So let's save that. Okay, so we have type curves. Let's document what we did. So we have the oil parameters up here. Let's go to this little button here. You have to click on the graph, hit the little note button, and press the paragraph button. So we're gonna document what we came up with. So for the oil IP is on this curve is 388. So we're gonna put 388 barrels all per day. And then the D initial, which is DE on the little ARPS table, the D initial is 95.78%. So we're kind of describing the curve. The B factor is 0.8. And the EUR for this well is right here in this volume tab. So that's 137 MBO. All right, so we can do something for the gas. You hit Control Enter to get a couch return. Now you got to put the IP of the gas. But you can't see it because we don't have the gas activated. So let's go back to the gas. Now we can see the rate. So double click and go work on this again. So the IP of the gas is 202 MCF per day. The initial, or DE they call it, 77.5%. B factor is 0.73. And the EUR on the gas right here is 130 MMCF. All right, so we're kind of documenting how we did the type curve, and you can put it right here. Okay, so that's how you make a type curve. So that's easy, right? And it's based on 11 wells that are averaged up. So that's a pretty good sample. You know, 11 is not too bad. 20 or 30 might be better though, right? Okay, so we can use this curve in, to predict what a new drill well will do. All right, so let's go to the next step. The next step is, let's go to the PowerPoint and go back to what we're looking at. All right, so we made the type curve. Okay, now let's make some drilling cases in PHDWin. We'll go back to PHDWin. All right, so if we want to plan to drill a well, we can just make a new case like this. Okay, you go standard case, and this is drill well number 1. And you can put some information about it, and you do next. And you leave the default values here for the ownership. And you're going to say this is approved undeveloped. And you can pick a normalized type curve here, but a case profile, I'm not going to do that. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a blank case. All right, so here's the well. We have no data. So we're just going to come up with an exponential decline. We're going to drill an exponential well, a high perm South Louisiana well. All right, so we change the graph. We'll go ahead and hit plus. We know we're going to drill it sometime next year. And it's going to have 100 barrels a day initial rate and about 25% decline. Okay, so that's going to be all right. All right, so that's kind of a well we just planning to drill. We just have these declines are based on volumetrics or some analogy. But we have to go ahead and put an investment. So let's click on the insert investment right here on the investment tab. Insert. And we just say drilling cost. And we can do that. Okay, so it's going to cost $2 million to do as well. So you put it there, and then you have to put a date. When are you going to spend the money? So you can type in a date if you want, but I like to link my investments to the production. So segment 1 is the first segment right here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to link this to the segment 1 of the major phase. So it's going to take you about 90 days to drill, complete, and put the well on production. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do a negative 90-day offset. So what that means is that you're going to spend the money 90 days before the well comes on production. All right, now we want to insert some completion costs. So insert again, and we're going to put completion. And the completion is going to cost $1 million. And when is that going to happen? Well, we're going to go ahead and link that to the production start also. So we know it's going to be about 30 days before the production is when you do the completion. All right, so that's estimated. So now we got a drilling and a completion cost. We have ownership, but we don't have any expenses. You can put some expenses in here until the economic limit. And then what about price? We don't have a price, so we can pick a model. And we can put, the gas, SEC gas if we want. And then oil, SEC oil, we'll go ahead and just put that in. So you got to specify the oil, and then you can specify the differentials if you know them. You should know them. So it's a 10% positive gas differential, but the oil is a negative 4.2% in this area of the country. That's what they're getting. Okay, so now we have a drill case. Let's change the operating expense. Let's just say the operating expense is $15,000 for the first 3 years. But then press insert, it's going to drop down to $8,500, later because it's lower rate. Okay, so now we have the well, we have the value. So this well is an uneconomic project. So we're going to have to increase the reserves if we want that to be a profitable project. So so we can do that. Anyway, that's our well. You can put some notes on here on how you did the reserves. It's based on volumetrics or something. All right, so just to check it, let's go ahead and run a cash flow report on here just to check. So we got the drill number 1. We're just going to run a standard economic cash flow report. So just to see how that looks. Okay, so here you go. Here's your well. It's proved undeveloped. Drill number 1. You can have the field and operator. We didn't put that. There's your discount rate, the as of date. And then you have the years and the production of gross oil, gross gas. We didn't put a gas, and net. And then here's your price. Here's your revenue. Here's your operating expense, your taxes, and then your investment, because the well is going to get drilled in 2021. There's the investment. We own 100% of the well, so we're going to pay 100% of the $3 million drill. So the drill and complete was $3 million. Okay, here's the non-discounted cash flow. So the first year you lose money because you spend money. Then you have the cumulative discounted cash flow, and this well has a net present value of $1.8 million. It has a return of investment on 2.1. Takes 3 years to pay out, and that's 3 years from the as of date, not from the spud date. And it has a 48% rate of return. And if you want to look at a PV20 or PW20 on that, it's a little lower. It's 970,000 value. So anyway, so you can risk or value the undeveloped reserves differently. Okay, so that looks good. But what if we want to drill an Eagle Ford Shale well? Well, we have this type curve already set up, so we can write down all these parameters and put it in on a new well. Or we can come in here, hit the graph button, hit here, the ARPs, and then you get a new menu, and this is for the case profile. So what we want to do is we want to add the case profile from this well here. So you press add, and then just name it. So you can recognize it. Okay, so now it's saving that rate profile. All right, so if you're going to do a new, now say we're going to do a Haynesville Shale well. We can say new. This is Eagleford. Eagleford drill. 1. Next. Okay, we're going to leave the ownership like that. We can change it later. Okay, so it's going to be approved undeveloped. But we're going to let it set up with the one we just made. So you got to find it. It's not in alphabetical order. Okay, that's the one we just made. So you finish by applying that. Okay, so we get a case with that shape, you see? And it puts it at the as of date. We know we're going to drill that next year, so let's move that. We're going to move the gas also. And you can shift using the globe editor if you want to shift. Well, that didn't work. Okay, so we have a Eagleford drill, but we have to put the expenses. We got to add the investments and the ownership and all that. And I didn't talk about taxes too much, but we use the default values most of the time for the severance, oil and gas severance. The combined tax is more like a local county property or ad valorem tax. And if you have that information, you can put it in here. Otherwise, we just use the default values. But if you have actual data from the operator, you could calculate what percent it is. All right, so that's how you make a well using a case profile. But what if you want to drill 100 Eagleford Shale wells? How would you do that? Well, there's an easy way to do it, and it's called, you go to File, Import or Create New Cases, and you check Prospect. So you just name this prospect. We're going to call this is the Eagleford Development. And you can put, information about the operator in the field. All right, so you name it, and then you come here. You can leave the ownership. You can change that later. Okay, so you want to drill 100 wells. So you type that. How many wells do you want to drill? 100. Now, if you think that some of the wells are going to be dry, you can put them in there, and it'll just put a dry well with no production and only the drilling cost, not the completion. So we'll model that. All right, so we're going to drill 100 wells. We're not going to start till next year. And we want to drill one every 3 months because it's got to take time to move the rig. Okay, and the drilling cost is $3 million. And these Eagleford wells cost $3 million to complete. We can go ahead and put a plugging cost. That'll be applied at the economic limit. And how much time from when you drill it to when you complete it? So it takes 90 days to drill and to get the frac grooves out there. So we're going to put this information and you press next. All right, so what is the category for this prospect? It's going to be probable undeveloped maybe, right? And again, you go in here and you find the little type curve you just saved as a case profile. There it is. And you say finish. All right, now you have 100 wells already. And you can put the major start date here in your start order. And it shows you the date all these wells are going to come on. Now you have to apply prices and expenses to all these, and you got to put the right ownership. You check the taxes. You can put the reservoir name. Anyway, so you got to add all the other economic data, but it quickly made you 100 wells. So that's pretty slick. So that's the prospect function in PHDWin. All right, let's go back to our presentation. All right, so we did a single case, drilling cases, and we did a prospect function. All right, so what about recompletion cases? You can make recompletion cases and you can time to producing well. That's sometime you do that. You don't have to do it all the time, but I'm gonna show you an example of using the recompletion editor to link the recompletion well to the producing well. So let's show how that happens. Let's go back to our project. All right, so we got a lot of wells in here. Let's filter some of these development wells out. So let's add a new filter. We're going to call it no development wells. And so we're going to, anything that has a case name that says DEV in it, we don't want it. So that does not contain DEV. So now all those drill wells got filtered out. So now we're going to work on our recompletion case, which we have the state lease number 29. Now this well is producing, but it has an uphole recompletion that we want to access later. But it's only after this becomes uneconomic, then we'll do the recompletion. So you can create a new case just right here if you want. But the easiest way to do is you duplicate the producing well because it'll have the name of the well and all the stuff already in there. So you just duplicate. And you can change the name and just call it the state number 29 recompletion. And we want to copy everything. We don't need the monthly data because this doesn't have any production yet. We don't need the projections. So we want all the prices and all that stuff to duplicate. So you press duplicate. And now we have a recompletion case with nothing in it. First thing you got to do is change the category. It's not producing, it's behind pipe. And we know that we're going to be moving up the hole, so that's like the F sand. So we got to change. We can change the reservoir name just to keep on track. All right. So what we want to do is we want to link this well to the producing well. So how do you do that? You use editor, recompletion tree. Now here's all some wells we worked on in the past that we have recompletion. I'm going to go ahead and delete them just because. We want to show you, but you can have multiple wells with recompletions in it. Okay, so what you do is you go to the producing well first. Here's the producing well. And you drag it into the recompletion tree. Then you go to the recompletion case that you just created and you put it on top with this arrow. So now this little symbol means it's linked to that other well. And you can double click here and put some offset days. So if the first well becomes uneconomic, it might take you 30 days to get the rig to come out and do the recompletion. So you want to put 30-day spacing between the two projects. All right, you can close that. Okay, so here's our recompletion, but we don't, we got some kind of, I don't know where that came from. I don't remember making a projection. I think though that's a case I've done. That's a well I've done before. That's another project. Okay, let's go back. Maybe I deleted the wrong one. Oh, here it is. Okay, here's the one we just made. Okay, so it has no projection. It has expenses because it copied. It has the prices. It doesn't have an investment. Copied the same ownership, no production history. All right, so let's go ahead and make a projection. Press that, and you press this. Okay, so it's going to just throw something up there in the year that the other well became uneconomic. So let's see, 200 barrels a day. It's going to have a 20% decline rate, and it's going to go until 5 barrels a day. Let's put a few more years on here. Double click. Okay, so we can put a gas projection if you want. So anyway, this recompletion is tied to the producing well, but you have to have some investment. So you go to investments, insert, and you say recompletion. Recompletion with, jack up rig. You can put a little description. And you completion. And you can say, well, it's going to cost $250,000 to do that. And what is the date you're going to spend that investment? So you can put a date in, but on this case, we're linking it to the production. So we go to segment 1, and then we're going to do a minus 30 days. So it takes 30 days to spend the money, get the well on production, then it's going to start producing. So the investment is going to be saved 30 days before this start date. Let's save that. Here's the value of that well. Okay, so it's live linked to the producing well. So the producing well becomes uneconomic in 2023. So that's when the new well, the recompletion comes on. But if you have a higher oil price or something changes and it becomes uneconomic at a different time, then the recompletion will get shifted back a couple years. So that's a live link. So that's how you do it. And if you want to check, you can just do a little quick report just to make sure it looks like it's running. So you got your production here is 300,000. Your investment is here. PV10 is 2.7 million. Okay, so it looks like it's running, proved behind pipe. All right, so we just did a little quick check. So that's how you make a recompletion case. And you don't have to link them. You can just, create a case and start it anytime you want and put the investment anytime you want if you know when you're going to do the work. So that's the option. All right, so we've shown you how to do a recompletion. All right, so now let's talk about reserve reports. The two common reserve reports that I use and most clients want, they want a cash flow report and a one-liner report. And the cash flow is a detailed report. It has the annual production and cash flow by well. So if you have 100 wells, it's going to give you 100 pages or more. But a one-liner report is where you just have some summary data on each well. So each well just has one line of data. So it makes a shorter report. And so it's a little different way to look at the data. So let's see how that works. So we can go to PHDWin, and we're going to close this file because we're finished with this project. We're going to run some reports on this one that I've already set up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so it's telling us some of the models have been changed. All right, so here's the database that we've already evaluated. We got the evaluate code on there. If you take it off, there's 190 wells in the cases that we use for other things. We'll go back to evaluate. All right, so here's our evaluate. We got some producing, PDP producing. Okay, we got more producing. We got some behind pipes, non-producing. We got a shut-in well. We got proved undeveloped, probable undeveloped, and possible undeveloped. So this is a 3P reserve report. So we can go in here on project file, project notes, and you can put some notes on here like this is 3P reserves with March NYMEX pricing. And that's going to be on the top of each report page. All right. Again, you can use these. You can set up these sort orders to help with your reporting. So you click on there, and if you want to look at it, so it's basically saying I want to have a grand total. Grand total is always the first thing in your sort list, but I don't want to sum it. But if you click on here, there's some sub. You can put sub headings by just dragging stuff here. So it's going to give me a subtotal here, and then it's going to total by that and order it by this cast and then by county. All right, so let's just run a one-line report just to see how that looks. So we're going to file reports in view, select and run. And we're going to take all of our wells. So whatever wells you want to run in a reserve report, you pull them in. Let's do standard one line and see how that looks. And we press run. Okay, so here's our economic report, and it has about 4 pages. All right, so you have your net reserves, you have your revenue, your expenses and taxes, your investments, non-discounted cash flow, discounted cash flow, and fee in life of that case. So you have a summary by proved, producing, non-producing. So it's all real handy. You can see the reserves and value for every category. Then it starts grouping them by proved producing, and then it sorts it by county. So, you got the different counties and the producing wells. So here's all the producing, and the different counties. Okay, so then we got still proved producing. Okay, now we go to proved behind pipe, so that by county, there's a shut-in well, and then there's proved undeveloped wells that are all right here. And then we got probable right here, proved probable undeveloped and possible undeveloped. So we got different reserve categories. So that's pretty slick. And you can export this to save it as a PDF file. And then you can give that to your client. And so we just save it. You can give it a name or something. Or you can dump this in Excel, edit, and then export into Excel. I like to use the data only. And let's see if that'll work. Okay, so you can put all this in Excel a little bit. Okay, didn't come out as good as I wanted. Okay, well you can save that or don't. All right, so that's a one-line report. Let's look and see what a cash flow report looks like. So now we're going to just run standard economics. That's a standard cash flow report. If you just want to put summary tabs on the report, you can click there. But we're going to run a detailed report on all the wells and all the summaries. So this is the main report that the clients look at when they want to see the reserves and value of their properties. All right, so here's a total of all the whole company. And the PV10 of the whole company is $59 million. So let's look at what we have. We have the discount rate. We should have changed this to 10%, but usually we use 10%. We have the as of date. We have the little notes that we added. This is for the total field. And you got the cumulative production right here. Anyway, here's the years. It shows 15 years of data. And if there's any more years, it puts them as remaining. So here's the all production gross, all gas gross, and then the net. This is your net ownership share. Here's the prices that you use for the products, your revenue each year. So it's the annual data. And you got some miscellaneous revenue. So here's some NGLs of miscellaneous revenue. Then the cost are your operating expense each year. And then your taxes, severance, and ad valorem. Then here's your total investments. And then right here is like we probably plug in some wells right here that become uneconomic. And you get your totals down here. Here's your ultimate. But if you want to know the reserves, you look at this. Don't look at the ultimate. These are the reserves for this field gross. This is net oil. Then you get some in economic indicators. You get return on investment undiscounted, 1.4 years to pay out for the whole field, return on investment. You get your PV8 here, 59 million. And then you get the PWs at different discount rates. The higher the discount rate, the lower the value. All right, what's on the next page? Well, the next page is going to be the same thing for the proved reserve class, see? And then the proved producing, proved behind pipe, non-producing, shut in, proved undeveloped. So for proved undeveloped reserves, you might say we're only going to value them at they're worth $2.8 million, but we might use a PV20 because we want to risk that a little bit. We're not gonna buy PUD reserves for the PV8. We're gonna maybe use a PV30. Okay, so that's on the report. So you got all the different categories, possible, probable, and then it does the individual wells, and you have some of the decline parameters here. Your ownership for the individual wells. See, this is a producing well, so it doesn't have a payout. Okay, it tells it the class right there. You can go all the way to the end if you want. Here's some possible undeveloped wells. Here's your investment. Your rate of return is 9%. That's pretty low. It's a low. That's not a very valuable project. Here's your decline parameters. And you can print this to PDF if you want, and then save it. And okay. All right, so that's how you do reports in PHDWin. And you can use these sort orders, like sort by different, you can sort it and categorize it by different criteria. Like this one's a little different. Real powerful. You can save different reports. You want to do class and category. Anyway, that might be the one we already looked at. So you can sort it different ways. You can sort it by field, by operator. So you know it's really handy. You can make reports any kind of which way you want. And then that's a real important part of the reserve evaluation is the reserves, cash flow, and the value in the one-liner report. And you can also print these graphs to a PDF if you want. You just do batch print the graphs, and then you can send the client all your graphs, showing how you did the declines on all the wells. So that's pretty good too. Anyway, so that's how you do a reserve report. That's some of the steps, and that's how you set it up and run it in PHDWin. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, reach out to me and on LinkedIn. My name is Mire, and we'll try to answer them. So thank you for watching.